Good afternoon, everyone. So I think today is a very special occasion, and we all can be here and welcoming Shu Li Chen, our old friend of C-Lab, and bring this very meaningful and dynamic project back to Taiwan, back to C-Lab. Yeah. So this Radiotopia, and it's kind of like because in Taiwan, as far as we know, radio art or this kind of signal art in Taiwan actually before the Taiwan the martial law pastime at the political situation is kind of like not easy for developing this kind of project, but and nowadays actually we saw a lot of like people who are doing these radio project or signal projects to their creations. So I think this is a very good occasion, and we can have this kind of a chance and bring the artists or the people who are interested into this kind of Radiotopia and workshop. And so we can have this very special 3 days workshop in here. So let's welcome our good friend Shu Li and bring this project to us. Yeah, yes. Shu Li.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so very special because the project Radiotopia actually started in 2021 in Linz, Austria, and actually I work with friend Zaver from this organization called Stadtvesta, like an art space, alternative art space in Linz. And every year, kind of in conjunction with Ars Electronica in Linz, we do a kind of 48 hours event. And so in 2021, we started Radiotopia as an idea of how to explore the unexplored spectrum, electronic spectrum or electromagnetic spectrum, to use it as a medium. So the concept is like use it or lose it. If we can explore different medium, different spectrum, different wavelengths, then we can actually use them as a way of medium. So we have this note called the medium is the massage. It's like the medium itself means a lot, even if you're not particularly transmitting any particular content, but the fact that we can transmit, we are connected. So in a way, Radiotopia actually predicting like how the kind of post-net scenario, supposedly today we don't have internet. I mean, at the moment, I think we all kind of chasing the 5G, the better, higher speed transmission and all that. So Radiotopia kind of sort of not predicting, but anticipating a kind of post-net crash, then what kind of communication tool we will be using. And I think with us, like we have Julien Ottavi from Nantes, Apple 33, then has also been involved with a lot of radio activity. We'll come back to him. We have Kate Donovan from Berlin. Kay is also working a lot with radio. She has her own sort of radio station called Radio Otherwise. And she also just finished a PhD, particularly writing about radio, so she would talk about that. And then we have 中文名字怎么讲？洪晨陈，and 洪晨的话，幸亏有笔记。洪晨就是我们很this time we really want to connect with the people here, people in Taiwan, and particularly with the collective or different community group in Taiwan, and we thought, like, of course, we want everything kind of related to the radio. So Hong Chen just came on board that you are part of the G0V community. Okay, I know these people. And so, of course, the G0V community in Taiwan is involved with in the fields of data privacy protection, the civic technology initiation, and so he has been also involved with the V Taiwan open consultation process, And I think today he's actually going to pretty much introduce the mesh, what's it, Meshtastic.
Yep.
Meshtastic, yeah. We work with the mesh network, but then anyway, so it's another way of talking about radio transmission, different way of radio communication. So I'm going to pass the mic to each one of you. Maybe start with Kate then. Yeah.
What shall I say?
Go to Kate's website, otherwise radio, otherwise radio.
Yeah.
If you scroll down, then well, then I start talking about this project. So Radio Otherwise is, as you see there, it's a project with Monai de Paula Antunes and Nico de Paula Lafort and MK, who's our kind of anonymous tech expert. And with this project, it started actually as a seminar. Monai and I were teaching a seminar in Potsdam to media students where we wanted to bring together ideas of ecology, radio, and cybernetics. And we built transmitters, micro FM transmitters. We did lots of listening experiments with different microphones, and yeah, slowly this developed into more projects that were very site-specific, like kind of durational transmissions of listening. One of them, I don't know if any of you were with Daniela earlier today, but one of them was with her project. Where we set up a radio studio from a boat that moved from the outside of Berlin into the middle. And we listened to different electromagnetic transmissions and the water. And the idea of that project was about infrastructures of flow. So how to think about how electromagnetism moves through an urban environment in a similar kind of way that water does. Yeah, so that's that project. Well, my PhD, so downstairs I set up a little space in the corner where I wanted to think about amphibious radio, which is a concept that developed through my PhD, and I have to say I'm not completely convinced about this concept. It's more of an idea that works in some cases and not in others. But it was a way that helped me to think about connection and difference in radio. So what I put on the walls there was an image of a tree or a plant that is a connective body between earth and air, and then a very, very simple radio receiver, which is also connected to earth and air. So they're both very kind of basic ideas of how to connect different worlds. And so it helped me to think about what it might mean in terms of transmission and reception, and that radio is then a kind of connective body across difference. And very often we can't see where a transmission is coming from or where we're sending to, which made me think a bit about the ethical questions of that. What does it mean to send something out, or what does it mean to receive something but not fully understand?
I think we're just gonna let everybody introduce yourself first, and then we really hope to engage in the conversation also with everybody here. So, continue.
Yeah. So I'm Cheng, and I'm with the Golf Zero, which is the G0V in Mandarin, if you understand that. So the Gov0 community, we basically just a very very distributed, self-organized people who's volunteering into engaging with the civil technology. And the project I'm doing it with lots of people from the community right now is the Digital Resilience Hackathon. And the connection with this radio stuff is because since last year, we've heard some of the incident that is occurred in Matsu Island, which is a remote small island near Taiwan. And some of their submarine cable was being cut off, and tragically, they lost lots of internet connection and lost all the interoperability with the Taiwan and the international internet connection. So because of this incident, some of the people in Taiwan were very concerned about if the submarine cable in Taiwan was being cut off. And it's not a very big number. It's just only 14 to 16 lines of cable, submarine cable around Taiwan. So if that's being cut off, no matter it is by accident or by the natural disaster, we got to lose all of the connection to the internet, to the global society. So we're thinking if we can utilize the radio technology, we can build a local communication network within Taiwan. So if we could get somewhat of satellite connection somewhere, we can still communicate within the island, and with those satellite, we can still talk and to receive the correct and genuine information from the globe. So basically, that's just what we're doing is with some of the technology, we're doing experiments like the LoRaWAN. It stands for the Long Range Radio WAN, wireless network. And one of the technology we're playing with around is the Meshtastic, which it can communicate with our radio nodes, but we can still use the Bluetooth connection, so we can use our cell phone as a console and to send our signal with the radio node we have. So I'd love to talk about this later, so maybe I can pass the mic to more introduction.
Okay. We'll go switch to the noise.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. Okay, so I will go. I'm not going to present myself in detail. I'm part of an organization called APO33, but I've been doing radio since early 90s, and I think it's important to, in connection to what has been said, to say that in France we have a tradition of pirate radio. And this pirate radios stands also for communication from the people to their community. And in the 80s, it got most of the 1980s, most of the pirate radio gets officialized. But the spirits of the radios and the pirate radios were still standing. So we call it Libre Radio, but those radios, so I started with those radios doing shows, and then more and more I started to use the medium itself as a musical instrument or as a communication political instrument, because in the development of radios, you could just be talking on the radios to your community, but you could also put your hands in the transmission, and then goes to the mesh. But the transmission is also a way to think about how these tools help exchange. So you have the classical FM radios, which everyone knows, or AM radios, short waves. But then you have a whole world of AM radios, but then you also have a world of walkie-talkies, CBs, and then there is the spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum, which is also a very old technology we use to transmit. We create transmitter with copper wire. So it's one of the oldest radio technology that you could use. So it's also thinking about the medium and what you transmit in this medium. and what you create with it. So basically, that's all my thinking is, and my work about radio is on this issue. When internet arrived, we also use it for transmission. So from radio art, we went into transmission art. It's a little detail, but what does it mean to talk about transmission versus radio? What is part of transmission, what is part of radio, and why it's art in the middle. So it's also questions and which tool for which context, and what is the content you transmit. I join you also on this. And the resistance, because we also helped Palestinian camp and anti-G8 and alternative forums in the early 2000s for developing tools using radio to transmit information, to transmit, so as pirates and political tools. So there's connections with those things.
Yeah, well, I think I'm really interested about this part of the resilience, what you mentioned. Yeah, so probably later on you can introduce more to us. Yeah.
Okay. I think we kind of provide a basic of where we all come from and why we're here, sitting here. And at the same time, for example, today and tomorrow, Julian and Jenny from Apple Tantra is doing a radio workshop, AM transmitter workshop, including the iStream downstairs. And of course, Kay had a workstation open. And Mao Chen, Pen. Okay. Maybe I am actually I think this Radiotopia, we actually bring, including myself, 9 European artists, kind of have sort of funded by the EU towards Kid of Care, this organization, to come here. And tomorrow we actually will have also some introduction about this. We have a lot of different programs happening. But today, the focus of today's topic is exactly about this idea of what does radio medium mean at this day or age, you know? Why are we going back to radio? And so I think Chen already started talking about it. I think actually Chen, from the Taiwan's point of view, coming from a very practical reason, right? You have a really like necessity. Today I heard someone was saying like, oh, Lai Zhongyun, everybody in Taiwan is preparing like an earthquake kit. They are preparing an earthquake kit, so like if there is an earthquake, you have the water, you have a radio transmitter, a radio communication tool with you. So I really would like to, for Chen to continue talking a bit about the particular situation here.
Yeah, so maybe let me just connect it with... Oh,不用声音。对，我在看。哎，没有哎。
Okay. It's a magic. Yeah, sometimes it works. Yeah. So due to we are kind of dealing with our technical issues, and also I like to elaborate more about why, nowadays in Taiwan we really need think about the radio. And of course, these days, as the Chen just mentioned about the nowadays we have a lot of like new hackers or entered all the time and into here, and due to this time we are always talk about the resilience of the Taiwan or this island, and because the occasion, oh, it's back. so yeah, okay, you ready? Cool.
Good to go.
Please.
Okay, appreciate it. So, apologies to the people who doesn't understand Mandarin right here because I don't got time to got it translated in English, but I can do some brief introduction to you. This is one of the protocol we're playing around in the GovZero hackathon right now, and which is called Meshtastic. So you can think it as a protocol we used in some of the enthusiastic or the civic technology hacker at Taiwan. And this is a radio protocol that could establish a very power efficient but long range. It can up to like 500 meters to 1 kilometers between two nodes. So it used the long range, it called the LoRa P2P to establish an internet connection. And one of the feature the protocol it has is to get each node can be in a relay, so they can pass the messages further to other user if they're connected inside this kind of radio network. So you can see the image at the right side is, if you see the cursor, which is circling right now, is one of the nodes we are using. And this one is also a node. And this one got the keypad right here is also a node. It can get, if you use any devices with the ESP32 chips or the SoC, if you understand some of the PCB, the printed on the board, logic board stuff, you will know about this kind of chips right here. So the specialties we say right here, you can see this is one set of the Meshtastic nodes. So if the ESP32 chips got the Bluetooth connect with the smartphone, it can be transfer the message. It will be encoded into a radio signal and to send to other kinds of radio receiver or the nodes. So you can see if the radio nodes or the chips are using the right firmware from the Meshtastic and you are with the right version, you can get the interoperability between all those devices. So if these nodes want to get connection with these nodes behind the mountain, if you're using the traditional radio signal, there's no way the first devices can establish connection with other devices behind the mountain, because we all know one of the feature of the radio signal got, it is very easy to get disrupted and get easily blocked by the concrete or the large mountain or different kind of terrains. But because the protocol we're using right here, if we place another node between them, and we can put it on the top of the mountain or somewhere can get past. So the nodes in the middle, it can play as a role of passing the message on to different, to other receiver. So if the user right here want to pass the message to the less far, originally with the traditional radio devices, you can never achieve that, because the radio connection, if you are not using the right instrument, if you are not using the not big enough power, there's no way you can pass the message with that far, or there are a lot of limitation it will get. But if we place different kind of nodes between them, these nodes can play a role to pass the message from here to here. So that's why we choose this kind of technology. So you can see it doesn't require to get connected to the internet. It doesn't require any kind of cable. And you can send text because it can get connected to our smartphone. So you can use it just like the text messages. And right now, in some kind of region who can get access to this technology, most of the region, it can utilize the frequency that doesn't require any kind of license. So it is very easy for us, so we doesn't have to get the permission from the government if we wanted to play around with this frequency, like in Taiwan is 923 megahertz. And it's very power efficiencies. If you are using like 200 megawatts hour battery, it can stay up to like 2 days, and you doesn't have to get it charges. So lots of people in Taiwan, they are placing their nodes on the top of the mountain or the building just to power it with the solar panel. And it doesn't have to be very big. It's just like an A4 size solar panel. So it's pretty good, and it can like encrypt the messages. So recently at the RISE-Con at this year in Taipei, we are like sharing this kind of technology to some of the human rights defenders and some people from Myanmar or from the Southeast Asia. They are got a lot of serious censorship. They can use this kind of technology to get communicate and doesn't will be influenced by the internet shutdown. So we are building this kind of, we'll say is a mesh network within Taiwan, and is for now is surpassed thousands of nodes are currently operating in Taiwan. Yeah, surpassed more than 1,000. Yeah. So we're thinking this kind of like scenario, which is to build a emergency like communication network. So, but it got some kind of limits because after all, it is using the radio signal, so it couldn't just send very large amounts of messages. It can say per time it can send to like 265 bytes. It's not the megabytes or the gigabytes, it's just bytes. So it's just sending 200, you can thinking like it's as like Twitter messages, like not very large. But we don't have to keep sitting next to our radio or the walkie-talkie, and we don't have to like listen and plug our headphones all the time. So it's quite handy for our scenarios we're trying to achieve right now, and it's quite affordable because just like this one right here is one of the ESP32 chips we're getting from the very friendly neighbors like China. It only costs no more than $15 US, so it is very quite affordable. Yep. And it is an open source project and protocol, so we are allowed, if you can understand how the source code works, you can audit it and make sure it is safe for our scenarios trying to use. So there's quite a lot of options you can get all around. So yeah, I think I said a lot. So maybe we can have further discussion. Yep.
Julian, maybe you can respond?
I can respond to this?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the job.
I'm the moderator.
Yeah. Answer to this. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to answer to this. So, Mesh project is very interesting because for a few reasons, and after we could talk about how this is connected to radio and transmission, and also in the history of mail art. which use the idea of sending a mail to someone and then it sends someone. So the idea of meshing is and cryptology also behind is very interesting and is very old also. A few years ago we were also testing the mesh system within the telephone from one telephone to another. So it's something that also have a large community, which you don't need to use any extra device. You use everyone's phone. But you go off-grid, the 5G, 4G, 3G, and etc. You go in a specific mesh telephone, it's a peer-to-peer mesh system that could connect people directly. So for example, like peer-to-peer, I'm communicating with you, and you communicating with Kate, and then she's communicating, and then everyone's communicating to each other, so we become the network. So in the idea of radio and also citizen band, and when the internet appears, the old conceptions of the bi-directional and multiple connection, multicasting also, it's very important. It's how you pass from a transmission from above to the ground, from horizontal transmission, where everyone could transmit. And this is very important. So for us is also to think about how you create an alternative network. And so this project, Mesh, is important, but also we need to, and this is why I was interested in this panel, to engage with all the technology that could help us transmit whatever we want, whatever information, how we want. So because, for example, the FM is very control, AM is less control, then there is the AM radios, which is very control, but in the AM radios you have the citizen bands, which is very important because citizen bands is actually a free zone, and then it's a free zone where you could transmit really far away. So we did some project where we transmit within the city in a bi-directional, and we hijack the citizen band to make audio and music and live performances in different cities, and so transmit. And then there was also the experimentation with Wi-Fi, which is joining what you say, because we used to use those CAN to transmit Wi-Fi to 100 kilometers, and so you could have point-to-point Wi-Fi, so it's outside of any official networks. It's your Wi-Fi local internet, and you send it to someone and you exchange on Wi-Fi, so you could create a Wi-Fi mesh. It's very exciting. So anyway, so good answer, no?
Yeah. May I ask you a question? Yeah. So I want to know what kind of frequency you are using for the citizen channels, and how, because the regulation in Taiwan, we don't know if it's possible we're doing here. Yeah.
Yes, I think I thought at some point there will be some discussion about this, but
tomorrow, with the amateur radio, the WSPR, we're going to really dig into this.
Yes, so I study AM radio for a bit, but I found the community where I started to study really boring, and I got really bored, and I was also impatient at that time. 20 years old, and I was like, you have to study all the Morse code and all the frequency, blah, blah, blah. Now you could do it online, it's more fun. But at that time I was like, oh, I don't have time for this. So I decided to take the pirate way and the citizen band saying, I want the free zone. Also I got problem is because if you are ham radios, tomorrow there's war, you have to work for the army. So if the army is Taiwanese, maybe okay. If it's Chinese, maybe it's not okay. So, but you have to work for the army, and there's no way you can't do it outside. Where if you know how to control other networks, then if you disagree, you could say, no, I'm not agree, we're working with the army, I work with people, So it's, so I don't know about the frequency here, but there is specific citizen band, and normally it should be international. So we have to see that.
I do have a little bit of something to say about ham radio. I mean, there will be more tomorrow, more experts, but or people representing experts. Yeah, what I find kind of problematic with this medium is, in theory, it's democratic, and in theory, it's open. But as you said, the community is quite limited in terms of demographic, in terms of reasons for using it, ways of using it. And I think for me, that would be one of the most interesting things to do, is to diversify who uses amateur radio, because it's a very specific culture that's quite hard to access or quite hard to feel comfortable in. So that's something that needs to happen.
Just to say, like in the case of Radiotopia, because of course, right from the beginning, from Frank Zaber and from the representative of the Stadtwest, and we're talking about using different frequency, but then there is always a different try, you know, in terms of WSPR. It's like there's always like a different attempt to see how far can we reach. You know, the attempt has been like, actually we have been working on like how to receiving signal from Linz, Austria, from ZAB, you know, to transmit here. If you go outside or upstairs the station or Stadtwest, you can see there is a tape antenna outside the window connecting to the station, the workstation there, which is the antenna we have been trying to see if that can actually connect to Linz. So I'm saying, what I'm saying is like, in terms of Radiotopia, there's, you know, at the same time that we have this idea of how far we can reach. What is this global resistance network can be, you know, like how do we make alliance with this network? And so I have a project I want to broadcast from Mongolia, you know, that kind of thing. So there's this global sense of WSPR network. If you look at the map, it's the same, you know, like from which point you can reach which point, right? However, I'm also sensing, after saying this, and echo to Kay's sort of suspicion or anxiety, a little bit anxiety, it is exactly at the end, I do feel maybe we are not really able to take care of a bigger network, you know? So then we are actually pretty much working in our capacity, in our own network capacity. You know, in the case of the mesh testing, it seems, it kind of reminds me in the early 2000s when we had this free Wi-Fi movement, yeah. And with the free Wi-Fi movement, actually, that was also the first time the call for like get out of the internet, you know, so the talk is like, we're gonna set the Wi-Fi for free, and then we can set up network nodes ourselves. We offer free Wi-Fi, and then the whole mesh network technology was actually in application. And so I want to kind of switch the talk a little bit about including what we are doing here in terms of Radiotopia. You know, we're hoping to get more young people, Taiwanese young people coming in, because I think the radio as a medium is still quite new. Well, it's an old medium, but maybe because it was never really applied here. So maybe we can talk a bit about the kind of so-called, what's the kind of community we are talking about? When we talk about connection, you know, and case worry about the democratic. And actually today we also got this like amateur radio association guy, Mr. Wu came in, and he actually played with the radio since he was in teens. And then he would say like, oh, you really have to have a little bit of money, and you have to have a little time, and then you can play around forever. So maybe we just talk a little bit about the medium itself, then, you know, from you then.
Okay.
I wanted to say, to join what you say is that it's true that the AM radio is white male plus 60 in general. Well, no, it's true. So that's it. And once you say this, I join you, I just put the stone with you. Because you have to have a license, and it's controlled by the state. And it's exciting for a certain type of populations that have all the money, the time, and then it can become a hobby. And quite often in the field, it's not to criticize because people have friends and everything, they are outside of the box. Why? Because they're artists and also make a difference. But most of the people, sometimes my granddad was in the army doing ham radios. He was doing army things. It was not doing anything. So when we talk about artistic, he look at me like, transmission art, what are you talking about? Transmission is for information. And I was like, oh no, I transmit noise. And it's like, what? It's anti-transmission. It's yes, it's like the medium is suddenly switched. It's like, yes, we hijack the medium to make it something else. But then the whole ham community look at you like you're a bloody Martian. And I think that's the point. They should accept people that will do something else with the medium. And that will be important to open the ham radio community because it's a very close community. Whether if you take the radio art, pirate radios, the community is huge, or the internet, right? It's huge, and there's much more variety, much more people from different age, because it's much more entry than the ham radios.
We actually, with Radio Otherwise, we just wrote a proposal to do a kind of ham radio boot camp called minor signals, so for minorities and also with this idea of how can you send small transmissions further away, with the idea to, as somebody who doesn't know, to learn together with other people who don't know, to also undo that kind of hierarchy, which I think often takes place in the school, ham radio school.
Yeah, I want to, because I won't consider myself as a person who play with the amateur radio, and since myself and the people from my communities were figuring out how to mitigate the internet outage or the blackout might happen in Taiwan. At first, we did consider about using the amateur radio, but the norms or some of the regulation inside the amateur radio community, like both of you just said, there's a lot of regulations and lots of acronyms, lots of like call sign things, and I will admit that I'm not that got that kind of evangelistic. Like, I'm not that excited about those kind of regulations all around the amateur radio because since I'm a developer working on software, like, we're pretty lazy, and for a lot of time we're trying to like using the automation stuff or some script, and since every time when I need to communicate with other people, I have to let them know who am I, and I have to like set and follow all the protocol and the process in order that I could communicate with each other. That's not a popular opinion right here, but I will say isn't that a little bit complicated? I mean, if I can use some sort of like digital assistant, like the devices can help me to communicate with other radio devices, I will say it works for me, and I love with that. And I mean, if that kind of norms can be easier to be studied around the amateur radio, it might be a good way to democratize all this culture or even this kind of like skills to keep it further and keep the global majority to get to understand about how this kind of stuff works and to assist them to get their hands on to this kind of technology.
That is one thing I like about Metastic, actually, you are actually reverse engineering a mobile phone, basically, right? So you're like, you're using a mobile phone, which everybody's supposed to have one, but you're totally got rid of these kind of corporation. You're not subscribed to the telecommunication company. You're bypassing a telecommunication company to create your own radio system, right? So I think for me, and as you say about the benefit of it, being it's legal, being it can actually still serve as a tool, not to knot and using the middle knot, but then we now have to kind of subscribe to administration. I do feel it's true, within the WSPR, within the ham radio, there were, and then of course, maybe Da-Kun can also talk about the Taiwan history of the radio control, right? And because of these radio control, I feel when we first proposed to do the Radiotopia project here, I think Da-Kun was more worried about is it legal, like we have to apply for a license to actually even hold this event with you, that kind of thing. So maybe you want to talk about it.
Yeah, because actually in Taiwan, because when Shuli bring this proposal to us, of course we say as a art institution, definitely 100%. We want to host this one. Yeah, but of course concepts like certain concerns. Yeah, because in Taiwan, if you run like a pirate radio, of course that's illegal. And due to the martial law beginning, actually lots of those pirate radios, they are more focused on the political agendas, and also they are selling the kind of pills. Yeah, and those kind of pills actually is and they all use the Taiwanese language. Yeah, which is like maybe the 80s, And when we was kids, and there's one very famous like broadcaster of pirate radio, Wu Letian, and he always selling those kind of the pills to like older peoples, and actually those pills are also illegally. Yeah. But due to that time, actually, there's kind of like a very booming environment in Taiwan, yeah, because that's still under the martial law, and because the martial law in Taiwan was finished at the 1987, yeah, and after that, the whole Taiwan, the history kind of like a booming, and because before that, actually, we are like under the White Terror, and also a lot of high price in Taiwan, but suddenly the whole society kind of like be alive again, yeah, and the theaters and modern art and contemporary art something like booming, and of course also including the political situation, and we are allowed to have like different parties and then televisions, and all kind of the communities. Way. So after that, the radio station kind of like booming into our society. But still, at that time, we need to apply the license. Yeah, and even until now, and we have the NCC, like a national net of communication center, something they are doing this kind of the legally way to. To give the license to all the televisions or radio stations. So that's why my concern when we are thinking to host this event, but we of course we're trying to treat it as a materials, as a kind of like as a signal, as a wave frequency, and they are kind of doing the transformation into the different arts form. Yeah, so this is how when we are thinking, what do we see that we can do, and we should provide this kind of platform to all the artists, and that we can easily to know how the ability of the signals and how the ability in this kind of like a radio frequency can bring to us. So we're trying to rethink or redefine this way or can be bring it. So I think today is really special occasion, and we are all sitting here and we are discuss this Radiotopia project in Taiwan. So although we have a lot of expertise here, so I just want to elaborate why we trying to as an institution and why we trying to bring this chance to this Radiotopia into Taiwan. Okay.
Fantastic. You want to add something? Anyone? Okay, you want to add something?
Oh, yeah, but we did a lot of pirate transmissions all day, you see now, no?
I pretend I'm not seeing
Yeah.
It's also there's a lot of artists here inspired by Tetsuo Kogawa, of course, and he was doing the same issue in Japan because he wanted to do pirate radio, and then and of course he was very like forbidden, and then he did a micro radio, and then he went, and it's the same in Europe. There's places where you could do micro radio, so you transmit here, and then you move. We did pirate radio all morning.
But actually, I will say, as an art institution, we have an umbrella called arts. Yeah. So if anything comes to us, and also this is our project, yeah, and don't give us any tickets. That's all.
Great. I would like to at the moment maybe open to the audience that we always consider the forum to be a conversation. So yeah, Jingheng would help us pass the mic. So anybody want to pose any question? One of us can definitely answer. Anyone? Yes, Alessandro?
Yeah, I was just wondering for the Meshtastic project, if you are in touch with the groups making mesh networks in South America, particularly in Chile and Mexico, because I think they have slightly different technologies, but they have very similar issues of bringing the connection in areas where it's not available or it's too expensive, and they are trying to make their own plan. So I was just thinking if there's any connection between these groups. I was asking.
So far, I'm still just limit my cooperation within the Asia Pacific. So I don't think I understand if there's anything to do with the people in the Central America or South America. But I have to emphasize that lots of people, when they first heard about this kind of technology, they will have somewhat of misunderstanding on how this technology could do, because actually it got very limited bandwidth and it couldn't transmit a lot of messages. And if you need to write I would say, for example, transferring a piece of article, you will need multiple 20 or 30 times to keep copy and paste, and then you can send the whole article to the people who you want to communicate with. So if the people who at that area, you can always look up the protocol, they got their GitHub repositories, and there's a lot of tutorials to guide the people how to work on with that. I believe there will be some materials in English, but also in Mandarin Chinese. If the people who's from local, you can always find that. And it's not that hard to buy or to acquire that kind of instrument, because like I just said, it's very affordable and it doesn't require to use a very powerful frequency or the power, so that you can communicate with other people and you don't have to learn lots of jabbers from yeah, from the amateur radio. So it's very easy. Yep.
Thank you for the presentation. About the mesh statistics project, it's not really a question, but there's AAS, which stands for Automatic Identification System for the boat on the sea. I think it's quite the same idea that every boat can transmit and repeat the signal, because on the sea you cannot put any antenna, it's just on the water. So every boat, every ship can transmit also the data. I was listening to this signal for a project, and I know it also exists for the plane, IASB, I think, for the plane. Do you think we can hijack also this technology? It's free to listen to the signal, but can we also use it maybe to transmit, because it transmits a database of every ship's, so it's just using VHF, very high frequency to transmit. Do you think we can maybe hijack this for another purpose, or maybe there's some regulation, I don't know.
Jens, too soon say no.
I'm not a technician who had lots of analogies into the radio communication, but I would say if you just use some of the source code from the repositories online, I believe you can very easily to replicate that kind of feature onto any kind of frequency you want to utilize. It's just like the VHF you just said. And I'm not that kind of concerned. Like I'm not aware if that's easy to hijack other people's frequency, because I believe it most require a very powerful instrument in order to do that. So maybe I think if you guys can, because I'm personally really find it interesting if that kind of hijacking of the radio frequency is that easy to being achieved, or if that kind of stuff is very easy to be hijacked, is there any ways to mitigate that? Because for now, if the civil society want to use some of the alternative communication system like myself are using, we always wanted to find a way to fight that kind of jamming system if some of the back actor wanted to jam the communication. So I don't know if any one of you can also elaborate on that.
I think marine radio technology is not licensed, because you could have a boat and have this technology and buy it on the market, and there's no license. So basically, I think you could just do it. I haven't done it myself. I've used marine scanners for scanning, but I didn't use transmitters. But normally, I knew people on boats and they transmit data and they don't have any license. So it should be hackable or usable. It's a good idea. I mean, I didn't thought about Yeah, but it should be legal. Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to be ham radio, I think.
I just want to remind myself and everybody that the forum title today is actually Radiotopia, as a rehearsal of spectrum takeover. So based on our conversation, I always find, like when we first started this project, and I always thought like whatever we are trying is almost like a rehearsal. So when we talk about the rehearsal of how to do these brief short distance communication, any kind of community radio is trying to find a certain way out to connect whatever. So for me, the idea of rehearsal, it's like you are You know, and I thought like first year when we do this project 2022 called rehearsal, and then next year I thought, oh, maybe now we have a formal performance, but we never have a formal performance. So, you know, 3 years later, we're still doing the rehearsal, you know, so that's the basic concept. Now, if we talk about spectrum takeover, exactly, you know, back to the people want to do the pirate radio, the hijacking, different bandwidth, you know, different. I think this is like somehow inheritance in our own blood, that we always have these hijacking idea. We have a takeover idea. I think my whole theory about my artwork is hacking or takeover, or you know, this idea of how to infiltrate, how to intervene. Even you know, got myself into C Lab and got a whole communication building to host everybody here. So this is another form of takeover for 3 days. So yeah, so maybe we can talk about this. Why a rehearsal, or why the need to take over?
I thought about this word takeover because that also could have problematic critical. No, but I think it's important to mention because this kind of this takeover, it does have colonial tendencies, but I think the way that it's used here, I think it's important to explain that the takeover is taking over these dominant ways of doing, which are problematic in themselves. Otherwise, it could be misread as a colonial gesture, but really it's about transgressing and dismantling those dominant ways of using the spectrum.
I'll find a very interesting perspective from this discussion is some of the project I can see right here, right now. They are trying to break the order, trying to find a new channel to doing or to disrupt, like you just said. But the most interesting part that my community are building right now is trying to form a new kind of order. We're trying to find some of the certainty, but some of the projects right here are doing the contrary, and I find it very interesting. And this kind of but there's some of the similarity is to democratize some of the power and some of the communications way, because before, when the internet communication or the price of the chips are not coming down, before that, common folks has no way to communicate. They only got the ability to receive the messages transferred or to be broadcast by the people who have the power or the monetary resources to buy and to establish and to operate the instruments like the radio stations or the TV broadcast stations or the government. But the beauty of the era we can get at this moment is every single person, if you had the right knowledge, if you had the right expertise, if you got enough free time and you're very passionate into this kind of communication, no matter is using the internet or using the amateur radio, it is quite easy to establish and to communicate and to transfer and to let other people to heard and to receive what you're going to talk about. And that's the similarity that I can find this kind of democratization of the communication.
Okay, then I have a question I want to ask Peng Chen. Yeah, because you know, when we are doing this Radiotopia research, and luckily, you know, we find your community, Mastratic Taiwan community, and I'm kind of like surprisingly to know you have around like 8,985 members in the, you know, in the chatting rooms. Yeah, so, and it's always, you know, a lot of messages, you know, kind of like popping up, and everybody are, you know, doing a dialogue on it. So could you tell us a little bit more and how their background and how, you know, you are running this kind of like booming communities? Yeah.
I had to say, because lots of people, they are self-organized and they just randomly just find some of the articles that my communities had posted online. So these people, they just randomly hop on the mailing list or the Facebook groups. So I wouldn't say those like 8,000 people, they are actively operating on the mesh texted devices, but I would say, like, because we can easily to observe how much of the numbers they are currently interconnected with each other on the our Meshtastic network right now. So like I just mentioned earlier, right now is surpassed thousands of nodes. They are interconnected with each other. So if I use my nodes to send out a message right now, the farthest it can reach is from Taipei to Taichung, and some of the message you can reach, you can imagine, is from the northern part of Taiwan into the center part of Taiwan. So it is the things we can get, and I think I have to keep like saying the reason and the possibility of the community can grow at this kind of amounts is because the resources, they are very easily to be accessed, and the people, they have the real anxiety for their rights to communicate with each other. So if the current structure, or in other ways the government are not let the common folks to feel the needs to build this kind of like communication channels, I would say, I hope I wouldn't have to like build this kind of products, because it is really hard, and it requires a lot of effort to keep up on that. But it is still, after all, it's already being built and being operated. So it is nice to see this kind of amounts of people to like flourishing and keep like building by themselves.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like you know, as you mentioned, it's kind of like a beautiful eras, and they are kind of growing up by themselves, and also people are kind of very equally to communicate to each other, and also a lot of people will answer other one's questions. Yeah, and so because I'm diving, you know, on it for a couple of days, and I think, wow, this is an amazing place, a marine group. Yeah. If any questions from the floor, yeah.
some question.
Let me think, what question do I want to ask? Okay, so to Kate, I was quite interested by what you were saying in terms of building a different kind of school for learning radio, ham radio, I guess specifically. Did you hear all that?
Yeah, now it's good.
Do I have to repeat it? And how important it was for that community to be more diverse and use these minor signals that maybe go not as far reaching, or how far these minor signals go. I was wondering how you go about bringing people to the ham radio discussion.
Well, it's very speculative because it's just a project proposal. So it was kind of more recognizing a need for it. And I mean, in the end, I think what it needs is a critical mass to diversify the culture of ham radio. But so the idea was just to start with a smaller group that could then hopefully open out. Yeah, and just to think in a different way about how to learn together. Yeah, in this sort of non-hierarchical way, or how to learn together as non-experts. And sort of. Yeah, I do come back to this kind of ecological thinking a lot of the time, and how diversity helps to sustain a certain. Well, in this case, it would be culture. So if you bring a diverse group of people together, then everybody has different skills, and so you could, learn that way. But it's a good question of how to bring people together, because, as somebody else said, it requires time and it requires money, and it's a big investment. And then to ask people who are potentially in a kind of precarious situation to invest time and money is a bit tricky, but we thought we should at least try.
You hear me? Yeah. So I have a question for everybody. What do you think is the future artistic potential in using ham radio?
What is the future
What's the artistic
potential for future use of ham radio?
Oh. No, I mean this whole debate that has been raised is very interesting, because in the AM radios, there's a little few of people, huge amount of bandwidth. There's huge amounts of frequency that are completely unused. It's mad. It's crazy, because when you do citizen band, you ask the question. For citizen band, you allowed few bands, and that's it. And then you look at what the ham radios have, and it's huge. It's like free nothing. And sometimes you got someone say, "Hello, I'm 6334. I'm sending you a signal." And I was like, "Oh, I'm 774." And it said, "Yeah, oh yeah, I received your signal." Cool. Or they send an image or something, and it's funny, and it's fun because they communicate. I send it through, but then after, there's so many people that might have artistic project or political project that look at all those bands with all those frequency and be like, it's a shame because we can't use that. So for many years I was thinking we need to hijack those things, but it's very, very, very sensitive, because there is those people that are licensed. They're also the security, the police of this frequency. So if they regularly scan those frequencies. If they see someone that is not official, they will denounce it to the police. Yeah. No, that's and even on Citizen Band we transmit continuously art projects and sounds and on the Citizen Band, and some people went crazy, you know, like, what are you doing on this band? It's like, you know. But I think there's plenty of projects.
Any questions?
For example, if you take tarot, I'm going to distribute the power. What do you think of what we're saying about this question of the frequency, the ham radio? Because you always like work with France, and then you always work on these connections. Do you think what we're saying about ham radio is not legit, or it makes sense? Hey, I'm asking you, man.
Franz Xaver has this really original and creative approach using ham radio, and just like Jan and me, who sent by him as representative to provide this infrastructure to get possibly a connection to Austria. Even though he is very creative in his project connecting to ham radio, always he tells us as apprentices, take care. Don't mess around too much. So it's a very interesting question, but we are very limited in how to micro hijack. It's not about hijacking it. It's not about doing the big thing we want to do or could possibly do. It's really a delicate process or a delicate approach to use ham radio in ways they are officially not meant to be used.
I think, wait, 吴先生，赶快来帮我们忙，正在谈这个，因为他应该是明天才来讲的，不过没关系，坐这。
Hey, we got the dude, man.
I was just talking, you know, may I introduce Mr. Wu Zhenzhou? So he's kind of started the whole Taiwan WSPR community using ham radio, and he knows about license. He really knows about license. But I was gonna say about how the whole ham radio WSPR community have such a whole code of conduct， 就是有一种行为的规范吧，对不对？在这个 ham radio 的 community, you have a code of conduct. It is sort of course, you have a whole list of legal terms, like, you know, what can you do, what you cannot do. At the same time, is also there is a kind of respect, right? 就是尊重彼此，好像所以 everything, and of course, whenever you do transmission, like, you know, if you go upstairs, we have the map. Tara and Yang has set up the whole WSPR NOTS map, and then actually when we were trying to just kind of pin down that we are here, Mr. Wu already come right away saying like it is illegal. You didn't have the license, right? So maybe 吴先生可以补充一下。好，那我们明天再来谈这个好了。Anyway, so Mr. Wu actually just bring us the receiver and transmitter today legally. He's the only legal. So I probably would want to kind of wrap up this conversation and give us more of a time to exchange idea. The 3-day Radiotopia here, we set up 12 workstations, and every station is occupied by an artist or group of artists. And the good thing is, like, please approach them and talk to them and exchange ideas, dialogue. And we are hoping, word by word, we're going to bring the fantastic community here, the radio community here from Taiwan. The reason for Radiotopia and the toolkit of care from Europe to come here is really the main thing, is to have this exchange of idea to actually creating the opportunity. I think Daniela here who have been doing the city walk workshop also want to really explore this version of city walk in Taipei from a more cultural perspective from Taiwan, right? So from Europe, people coming, artists coming from Europe, I think we have all the intention of trying to communicate with the local community and try to work out the kind of cultural perspective difference, right? So in that sense, we hope that within these 3 days, we create this opportunity and, you know, and please let your friends know. We hope to fill the house day by day. By Sunday, we should have a final performance. Hopefully everybody will be transmitting illegally. And so with that, I would end this forum for now, and we continue talking otherwise. Yeah? Otherwise. Thank you. That was fun. That was fun. Thank you, John. Oh, 太好了。Thank you.